Hi, Slipko here. Welcome to my coding update series, September 2017. This time I'll show you some basics of my coding. In this case for the Minigolf game. I started ahead and have to give you a heads up for the things that I already did to get ready for the next thing next month, where we will see in detail what I did the last months. Alright, this is the project overview. This shows the most important blueprints I'm using. The physics ball blueprint. It is basically the default blueprint for rolling ball game mode preset. And I will add more variables and functions to it. I added a little blueprint class that is the power display. It basically is a GUI overlay that shows a little gauge in the bottom left to indicate the power the next shot will have. This is the blueprint view of the physics ball class. Note the input action jump and input action touch entry points. They are two out of several ways to react to inputs. They are still remaining from the default rolling ball project, which had a jumping button function. I adapted the functionality to do more, and only to do it under certain circumstances, as follows. If either input point is pressed down, we set a boolean to true. It will be read later from other places in the code, and the mouse button we use does not offer a direct check for pressed status, so we have to make it ourselves. After we set this boolean, we check whether the ball is rolling. This is done by getting the ball instance, getting the component's velocity, and checking whether it is below a certain threshold. If and only if that is the case, we show the power bar. Otherwise, the ball is still rolling, and we do not want to show the power bar, but initiate a jump instead. Adding this impulse is a function that I could copy from the former method of how the rolling ball game works. Going back to the entry point. If we release the input, we first set the mouse held variable to false and we hide the power bar. Moving on. The camera rotation. I copied the majority of this from the default third-person game mode. The only things I needed to add were adding an input axis for horizontal turning, so mouse left-right, and for vertical turning, mouse up-down. I added a check for the mouse held variable because I wanted to disable any camera movement when the mouse button is being held. I removed this later because we actually might want to adjust the direction of the shot while doing it. If the mouse is not held, we transfer horizontal movement to the yaw input. This is basically like turning your character, or actually the camera around the character. Side note, I had to change the setting in the ball camera alignment and drag the camera, including the spring arm that holds it, from the root element onto the actual ball mesh for the camera to work the way I want it. If we move the camera vertically, we are basically doing one of two things. If we press the mouse button, we continue the next check. Regardless of whether we look up or down, we have to add the axis input to the stroke power, but the difference is as follows. If the axis value is above 0, we have to check for a maximum value that we cannot logically exceed, let's say 100% power, right? So we take the minimum of what we have and this 100% power value. This returns a capped value. If the axis value is below 0, we look down, so we have to verify that we do not go below 0% power. So we take the maximum of 0 and what we have. The result will always be at least 0. Whatever we got from that, we save this as our new stroke power and update the power display value to this power. Finally, the power bar. I added two custom events you have seen already being used in the input handling, show power bar and hide power bar. So what we basically do is create an instance of the power bar we saw before. This is done by create by class. This function returns a power bar widget in this case. We have to add a player as argument. Luckily, it is rather easy to get the player that is playing the game by the function getPlayerController with player index 0. Next, we store the created instance in a variable for easy access. The hiding just basically does that. It removes the GUI element from the parent, the player it is attached to. So after this introduction, let us jump into the development process of the following days. But this is a thing for next month. I had some technical issues this month and was busy doing certain things that I cannot share yet. So see you next month. Have any questions? Post them below. I will do my best to answer them. Have a nice week, a nice month. Talk to you guys later.